Welcome back. Of course, we're moving into our second conversation for today as we start talking about Disability Awareness Week. It officially started yesterday, continues right through to December 3rd, which is International Day for Persons with Disabilities. We're joined at this time by a representative of BAPDA, which is the Belize Association for Persons with Diverse Abilities, and that is Roxane Martin. And we're joined by a representative of the Ministry of Education, NARCIE representative, Earlett Thomso. Sorry. Good morning, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for having us.
We were having such a great conversation in the break. I got distracted completely. But I think it is obviously a great time for us to be able to look at the situation of persons and children living with disabilities in the country. So let's just start off with a bit of the formalities about BAPDA, what you do and how you reach out to this particular population.
BAPDA, the Belize Assembly for Persons with Diverse Abilities, is a not-for-profit organization. It is led by and chaired by persons with diverse abilities. We do basically volunteer is how we operate. Our offices is open only 2 days a week. And so it's amazing the work that gets done behind the scenes, days that the offices are not open, because your phone rings 7 days a week. One of the things that we're critical in bringing to the table at this point is a disability ID card. It's something that we started in early last year. We've printed only 40 so far, but we are going to be doing excess of the other members come early January 2017. This year, in celebrating Disability Week with NARCIE, Stella Morris, and our other partners, we have a whole range of activities happening this week. And so our organization is bringing our membership and partnering with our different agencies to see how we can make it the best activity week for persons with disabilities.
So what are you hoping to be able to achieve with the identification card for persons with disabilities?
Identification card, even though it's the first initiative, is something that, yes, that's what it looks like. We're asking the business community, services, agents, and referral agencies at large to assist persons with diverse abilities when it comes to in terms of boarding the buses, getting seating, when it comes to healthcare. Sometimes you see someone, like, I'll take myself for example, I have what is called a hidden disability. So you are not able to look at me and see why is it that I am unable to do what you might normally be able to do. And so it becomes disheartening for me sometimes when I'm in a line and I have to say to someone, you know, I can't stand for a very long time, I need to go and have a seat. And so we're asking, like, in the cases of the disability card, I come into an area, a public area, there's a security, I show them my card, you know, he can understand why is it that I need to have a seat compared to standing in the line. And so we're asking simply the ID cards further on, long-term future, soon future, the business community to give us discounts on our purchases. When it comes to the theme that we're celebrating this week, achieving the 17 goals for the future that we want. The first one of those goals is to end poverty. And so we're asking simply, give us a little extra that the special persons that special needs need.
How does NARCIE fit into the overall picture of dealing with persons with diverse abilities?
Well, NARCIE, we represent the educational part of it. What we do is that we work with children with special needs, not directly with the children, but teachers or people who may come across children with special needs. We do assessment and we place them into school, whether it be in an inclusive setting or in a special school. We just do an assessment and we make a recommendation, and then the parents will decide whether they want to put them in a regular school or special school. We also follow up with some of our students who are deaf. We place them into high school, and then the Ministry of Education provide interpreters for them so that they can cope in the school.
Now, we know that NARCIE is also a part of the diagnosis, the process of getting diagnosed for children. Let's talk a bit about some of the common issues that you find. The physical disabilities, I think people would be able to see. But very similar to what you spoke about, Roxane, is that when it comes to developmental disabilities, there still is a lack of understanding from the wider public. So let's talk about what NARCIE does to help parents and children in that situation?
Well, we work in partner with our doctors. Doctors do diagnosis and we just do the educational assessment. And we usually send them to the doctor to prove our suspicion that they might have an intellectual disability. When it comes to intellectual disability, sometimes it's not something overt. So you will notice that maybe your child is not learning in school. They are not at the age of the children that are in the classroom, and then you try to observe them and see what is happening there. Sometimes they're developmentally delayed, sometimes they have a learning disability, and there are several different disabilities that we can look at when we talk about children with special needs.
You also mentioned, well, we were discussing earlier the idea of autism and how many children in Belize are being affected by autism.
Well, I really can't, when it comes to autism, I really don't know what is happening. But recently we have seen a big increase in the number of children with autism. Right now, if you go to Stella Maris School, you will find 2 classes. Usually in the past, because I've worked at Stella Maris for like over 20 years now, I've been around them, and usually you would see maybe 1 or 2 or 3, but we have 2 full classrooms with children with autism, and it's not just Asperger's syndrome at the higher end. You will find children with severe autism in the school, and we also have some with Asperger's syndrome, the higher end of autism, who are also in the inclusive setting. So there is no definite reason as to why they're having autism, but we are seeing quite a number of students like that.
So there's a situation where the child is diagnosed as being autistic, and the parents or the family are then faced with a decision as to whether or not they want to have the child enrolled in a special education program versus having the child enrolled in the normal school setting. Can you speak to us a bit about how that comes about?
Okay, well, for us to do any kind of assessment, we have to get the permission from the parents. And when the assessment is completed, we will make a recommendation. If we think the child can work in a regular school setting, in the inclusive setting, and function, then we will make that recommendation. But if we think the child needs to go to a special school, then we will also recommend that the child goes to Stella Maris. But the end result is that the parents make the final decision. They can say, well, I don't want my child to go to Stella Maris. I don't want that stigma and discrimination, so I want my child to go to a regular school. And they place their children in the regular school system. And sometimes years down, it might come back to haunt them because the child is going to school, and probably the child reached standard 5, standard 6, and knows limited, because we won't say that they don't learn anything, because in the inclusive setting you learn to socialize like your regular peers, you learn things from them, and you learn from each other. But there are times when the special school might be the best placement for the child. So we look at the most enabling environment rather than just say, well, this child has a special need, so she or he needs to go to Stella Maris School.
Doesn't it create some sort of like a disservice to the child, though, in a sense, if he or she is being denied that opportunity to seek and get special education, simply because I would want to think that maybe a teacher in the inclusive or the regular setting may not necessarily be as trained or adept in dealing with someone with special needs in this case. Doesn't that cut the child short from being able to expand his or her horizons dealing in a special program?
Well, that is the role of our officers at the NARCIE and teachers. One of our role is to try to speak to the parents and let them understand. Sometimes we even take them to Stella Maris School and we give them a day to walk around, to sit in the classroom, to see what is happening there, so that they understand what, because sometimes there are some parents that will tell you that they have so much negative things and they didn't want to take their child to Stella Maris School, and after a year or two they see the growth and then they appreciate. So our job at the NARCIE is to try to talk to them, try to convince them, and to show them where it is it is the best situation for their child. So if a parent does not want, we don't really condemn them. We try to encourage them, and we have other parents talk to them so that they can understand the benefits.
You know, the population of persons with diverse abilities is such a wide range, and I think this is a great part of the conversation, because when you talk about whether it's a developmental delay, whether it's an autistic child, whether it is an adult with a physical disability, I think it's often easier for people to be more sympathetic when the person is young and the disability is visible. But as they become adults and they have to fit themselves into society some way or the other, we somehow tend to become a bit more callous about it. We prefer to turn our heads rather than recognize that these people still have special needs. Not that they can't, they're just required to do things differently than we do. I know BAPDA has been working very hard on trying to sensitize the wider public that adults with diverse abilities deserve respect and maintain their integrity and independence. And it starts with some of the simple stuff: preferential treatment in public and government facilities. Access. Is there an elevator? We're guilty here, we don't have an elevator. Is there a ramp? Is there a clear enough sign to say, if I have a physical challenge, I can be able to access this service here? What has the I mean, how do you find yourself? It's very similar to the Aging Council. They've been working on this as well, and we don't see as many inroads as we would expect at this time. What do you find to be the main barriers when you do your outreach to people about why they perhaps don't buy into why these things are necessary?
Well, as in most cases, until it hits home, then it's when it becomes real.
Yeah.
Before I became disabled in 2012, I had a regular life. I was a very active person. I was involved in several organizations. I had spurs, and people take our feet very, what's the word?
For granted.
Like
For granted.
for lack of a
Yes.
better word.
We don't pay attention to free foot. And so simple things like the type of footwear that we wear in Belize causes spurs. I went to the hospital with just spurs to have a surgery, and I walked out. I didn't walk out, I came out in a wheelchair. I was in a wheelchair for 5 months. And in that 5 months, having to access spaces is where it brought it home for me.
Yeah.
How much that your life could be changed within an accident, a sickness, a gunshot.
Yeah.
You never know what might be your future. And so we would want to say, don't wait until it hits home for you to become cognizant of the things that persons with diverse abilities face every day. When I was a child growing up, an elder said to me, persons with diverse abilities, or as we know it then, people with disabilities, they carry the burden of the world on their shoulders. They carry our sins for us. And so when you see a person with a disability, you say an extra prayer for them, because the strength that it takes for them to go through an ordinary day is something you would not even fathom. And so even though there have been allowances being made when it comes to ramps, we want to say persons are becoming aware. However, do a ramp and do it with the international standards. Do a ramp and put the rails for the ramp.
Yeah.
When you're doing the bathrooms and you're making the doors bigger, don't just make the doors bigger. Put the ramp so that when we sit down, we can actually get the support to get up. There have been small steps made. There have been great steps made, but it's up to persons like our organizations to continue the work to advocate and to allow
There
persons.
seems to be a bit of I'd want to say confusion, but that may not necessarily be the word, so you'll forgive me. But from what I've gathered, you have, on one hand, people with diverse abilities wanted to be treated as though they're normal, and they want that sense of support and independence. But on the other hand, there need to be allowances and accommodation made to tailor or cater to their specific needs. How do you find balance?
Whatever is equal for you should be equal for us, regardless of what our limitations may be. And so you may take something simple for granted, like just walking up a step. It might be a challenge for us not having a rail. And so, you know, for you to refit a building, most persons would say that is not, you know, it's not financially feasible. However, if it goes beyond money, it goes beyond what you're going to do, but to have compassion for enhancing the life of somebody else. Not because you take it for granted means that somebody else can do the same. Humanity, overall, if we're having a heart about how we're going to deal with people, deal with us from every level. When it comes to education, we want to go to school in the same access. Some of the students, and I always say to people, since the convention has been signed and ratified, there have been many steps made. Bigger steps when it comes to children and smaller steps when it comes to adult disability. However, children then becomes adults.
Yep.
And so if we're going to be planning, let's plan for a long term and not for just a band-aid and a cut at this point.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something to that. Even though our mandate, we have school-age children, there are many times that if you go to my office, you will see several children sitting outside waiting for a recommendation for a job. And our children have skills. Our children, those who are deaf, they might not be able to talk, but they have skills. There are jobs out there where they can clean, they can arrange things,
Open
they
a
can
door.
put things together,
Yeah.
and still people refuse to give them a chance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it pains my heart because I would have 4 or 5 and all of them are coming and you are trying to help them, and sometimes you even create jobs that you don't have in your own homes so that you can help them so that they can have something to put on their tables for their children, because they live lives just like us.
Yeah.
They have children, they have families, and they have to take care of them, and people just don't think that it's important to give them a chance.
That is such a critical point, and you just hit the nail on the head, Roxane. It's wonderful that we show support and caring and we empathize with children, but these children will become adults, and what are we doing for them? I did interview a couple of teenagers who graduated from Stella Maris, and they want jobs.
Exactly.
Brilliant children.
I was moved by
Brilliant.
that very same story you did, Marlene, with the individual working at Brody's, if I'm
Brody's,
not mistaken.
Kirk.
Yeah, and the fact that he has come a long way, and his disabilities don't prevent him from being productive in society.
Correct.
I think we just need to be more open-minded in terms of creating these opportunities for people with diverse abilities.
Yes, and hopefully in this week, Disability Awareness Week, I know we have to get into the activities, so I don't want to lose that time. But this is the start of the conversation, and if we can show people that, you know, yes, let's care more for our children, let's recognize their needs, let's support Stella Maris, let's support the Special Olympics Belize, but also understand that these children will also need access to many essentials as adults as well. They won't stay children forever. So let's talk about what are some of the activities taking place in Disability Awareness Week.
Disability Awareness Week, we started off yesterday, the 27th of November, and it's going to be finished on the Saturday, December 3rd. Opening services yesterday, church services, was done at the Lake Eye Baptist Church on the Mahogany Street. We had several of our members, and we had our partners with us also. We had Stella Maris and NARCIE present yesterday. And so we had a wonderful day at church yesterday morning. Today we started off with home visits.
Okay.
For this week, we're going to be projecting 40 persons that are unable to come out.
Okay.
The partners and ourselves will be making home visits this week. We'll be also visiting like 7 different schools.
Okay.
And this is also to bring awareness to the children. We have our different members and the partners come in and give their testimonies as to how is it. And children are so amazed to know that, you know, the compassion that you see in them, and it starts in opening up the mind at an early age. If we start teaching these kids at an early age, you know, you see someone that needs assistance, it doesn't take 2 seconds or 2 minutes for them to reach out and help someone. If you have a child in your school that needs to use a bathroom and is in a wheelchair, you can just basically open the door, you know, just to teach the children how to have that compassion for someone else. Additionally, our highlight of this week is our rally, annual rally and parade is that this Wednesday. It starts at Memorial Park, and we have our presenters. We're having reflections on the convention since it has been signed. We have our different musicians. You know, the kids want to be hyped. This is their day and a fun time for them. After we leave from Memorial Park, we head over. It's a short parade. Persons with disabilities, of course, are not to be exposed for long term. And so it's a short parade over to Battlefield Park. This year we're going to be doing something a little different. Additionally to the parade and the march and the rally, BAPDA will be doing the soft launch of our disability ID cards. And so we're inviting out each and everybody with disability, a family member, a caregiver, or even if you just want to come out and support us. We have had sponsors from several different organizations. I know the Belize Red Cross, the City Council has done an amazing job for us. NARCIE, Stella Maris, PLOW organization. There's like 17 different organizations.
Wow.
I'm so sorry, I can't remember them all at this point. But
That's all right.
we have had a lot of support in making this week a full week of activities for persons with disabilities.
And on Friday, we will have Special Olympics National Games, and that will be held in Curacao. Usually we do 1 year in the city and then the next year outside the city.
Fantastic event for people to go
And
out
additionally,
and support.
on Wednesday, we'll be having informational booths from our different partners at the Battlefield Park. And so for the course of the day, it's going to be an ongoing membership drive for our organization. We're asking persons that have not been able to sign up with us to use this opportunity. Come in, be a member. We have a $5 membership to join BAPDA, and so that exposes you to whenever we have different workshops, whenever we have our partners come in doing prosthetic services, or whenever we have donations for assistive devices, you definitely are going to be
All right.
on that list.
Well, ladies, we want to thank you for coming in and having such a great conversation. We have to keep on educating people and making them aware of not only the challenges, but also when there are triumphs as well that are taking place for this particular group. And we're talking the celebration of the ID, and hopefully we'll get the business community on board and other sectors to be able to extend courtesies to persons once they have the ID. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
We're going to go ahead now and take a break, and when we come back, we'll have a conversation with FECTAB, so stay tuned.